All right, this is your last poetry lesson for the week because of our awesome lesson with Mrs. Sloan the other day. And I want to remind you again that we're just kind of talking about a few elements of poetry as well as also having you practice some fun poetry types to write. So our element of poetry we're going to talk about today is still within figurative language, but this one is called a hyperbole. Hyperbole is not only a fun word to say, it's also a really, really awesome trick to use in poetry to help you talk about things that are exaggerated. So let's look at the definition. It says, hyperboles are huge exaggerations that are obviously not true. So for example, I told you 1,000,000 times not to jump on the bed. Now, do we think that they've actually said that 1,000,000 times? No, but it helps you see that they've exaggerated how many times that you've had to do that thing. So hyperbole is really awesome to use in poetry. He was as tall as a tree in the redwood forest. Well, the trees in the redwood forest are like hundreds and hundreds of feet tall, so something like that would not work. Another kind of figurative language is an idiom, which I love. An idiom is a word or a phrase that is it says it could have more than one meaning, but they usually come from like a story in history. So, for instance, here this says a penny saved is a penny earned. That's a Benjamin Franklin one. So that's meant to kind of make your mind think, but idioms are things like it's raining cats and dogs, or like this one, it's a piece of cake. Well, it's not really truly a piece of cake, but we know that it's raining cats and dogs just means that it's raining really hard. And we know that when somebody says it's a piece of cake, that's just meant to say that something's really simple. So idioms are a really fun thing to use in poetry as well. So that's just a little side note. Today we're going to practice something called a Cinquain poem, and I like cinquains because I think they're kind of neat and they're easy to write. So a cinquain, it says cinq means 5 in French, and a cinquain is a special kind of 5-line poem that's very strict. You can't break the rules on this one because otherwise it won't fit the pattern. So, for example, I'm going to read you their example first. Their example says motorcycle, noisy, fast, racing, climbing, crashing, fun on 2 wheels, dirt bike. So here they have a very succinct 1 word, 2, 3, 4, and then I've always been told you can only have 1 word, but technically a dirt bike's like a motorcycle, so that's fine. So then this is where they're going to give you all the directions. Your very first line is any topic you want, any subject. It should be a noun word though, whatever you want. So the first word, and I have a couple examples to show you in a sec. So line 2, it says 2 words that are basically adjectives to describe the title. So here they had motorcycle was their noun, and then here their adjectives to describe a motorcycle were noisy and fast. So then for line 3, you need to have verbs. What are 3 actions that item can do? And for example, here they did racing, climbing, and crashing. And then the line 4 is one of my favorites. It's supposed to be a short phrase. It's typically 4 words, but I think if you wanted to add 1 or 2 more or 1 or 2 less, it might be okay, but 4 words would be the best thing to try to do. But it's meant to be like a short phrase, so something that's expressing a feeling. So for instance, what do they think of when they think of motorcycles? They think that they are fun on 2 wheels. And then finally, line 5 is where you just use a different word for your original word. So motorcycle was their first word, and they used dirt bike to be another word to describe that. Okay? So the examples that I came up with, I'm very hungry. I haven't eaten lunch yet today. So that's where you're going to come up with my first one. So my very first Cinquain poem is dedicated to Cheetos, specifically the puffed kinds. So this says Cheetos, which is my noun. And then the next words are crunchy and orange, which are my adjectives. Those are my words to describe that noun I have up there. And then it says satiates, quells, and satisfies. Those are all fancy words that I looked up, but they really just mean that I'm no longer hungry if I could eat that Cheeto. So these are verbs to describe me eating that Cheeto right over there. And then I wanted to sort of describe it in that short phrase kind of way, and I said it just hits the spot. And then finally, instead of writing Cheetos, I wrote snack to think of it as like a little, but maybe instead, now that I know I could write 2 words, maybe I could do like cheese puff or something like that. I like that. Maybe cheese puff instead of snack. Now the other one that's less silly I did was about summer. So again, it goes noun, adjectives, verbs, and then your sort of just your phrase, we'll call this your phrase step, and then your synonym or your other word for it. So I said summer. It's freeing, sunny, relax, overeat, repeat. Those are the two things that I like to do the most in the summer. And then gravity chair in backyard. That's what I think of when I think of my summer vacations. And then solstice, because that's another word for summer. Okay. So in your little journal today, you're going to see a paper that looks like this. And up here, it's just going to remind you of what those 5 steps were. But have fun. And if you want to write more than one, you've got lots of room off to the side. So I would love to see your poems in Flipgrid. I would love to hear you telling it to your family. I mean, obviously I won't hear it because I won't be there, but hopefully you share one with your family. And then finally, your other option is you can always share one on Zoom if you would like. Can't wait to hear them.